Well, thank you for participating in this, our program today, really on automating the approach to managing your sanctions, exclusions, and CMS open payment oversight process. I'm Tom Leahy. I head up sales and business development with SureShield. We are a software provider that provides a number of different solutions, and one being an integrity management solution to help you manage this process. We'll talk a little bit, just an overview around what some of the requirements are here with the OIG in this oversight process. Some updates. I just recently attended the HCCA annual meeting and had the opportunity to listen to Kimberly Brandt, who is now the Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Administrator for CMS, who did kind of the keynote at the session, talking about some of the goals and focus of CMS under the new administration. And the timing is somewhat relevant, as there was a lot of discussion around a big component of this administration's focus is going to be in rooting out waste and fraud and abuse in the system. And of course, the components of sanction oversight and making sure that there's no conflicts of interest with providers who are working within your system will become even more important. And the importance of demonstrating and showing that you have processes in place to manage this. So as you know, underneath these particular departments and areas, there's a requirement for anyone that's working and receiving monies from the federal government to make sure that those that are in their ecosystem are allowed to participate in that. They're not sanctioned or excluded from working in those environments. And if so, there can be some pretty significant financial penalties to your organization if you have providers like that in there as well. Also, there's the requirements to make sure that the providers in your organization don't have conflicts of interest as it relates to vendors or organizations that they're working with to guarantee that the care that's being provided is there's no improper incentives around that as well. And again, it requires you as an organization to monitor that open payments database and making sure that those in your ecosystem don't have issues that could be of conflict. We've had the benefit of working with an organization that's given us a great amount of insight into this, and we're actually getting ready to open and release a add-on to what we call our IntegrityShield process program to help with that. So what are the OIG's recommendations for oversight? One, and again, this was reinforced at the HCCA meeting, to screen all your new employees, providers, contractors, and vendors. Obviously, to do this in the beginning, before you've even brought someone on, to make sure that they're not on these lists. But more importantly, to make sure that those rescreens are done on a consistent basis. The recommendation is that they be done at a minimum monthly. So within your own provider organization, making sure that sanctions and exclusions checks are done on those, and obviously the open payments are done on any new providers that are brought into the system. And to really be able to provide a solid proof of those screening activities, your frequency, the dates, the databases that have been checked, and of course, lack of proof of this can result in greater penalties. And then to act quickly on any of those that you identify that fall into that type of environment, as well as to check for potential conflicts of interest as well. One keynote that came out of that meeting was that the enforcement activities are going to continue to significantly ramp up, and that fraud is a major focus of the new CMS administration. We had a chance on leveraging some of the recent basically reports that came out of that particular meeting to just show that this trend in terms of those getting added to the list is continuing to increase. As we note and can see in 2020 and 2021, the numbers went down, but a lot of that had to do with issues with COVID and courts being closed down or really not operating at any kind of significant activity. But as you can see today, these enforcement activities continue to grow and increase. And they will continue to do so as the government will always be looking to recover and recoup payments that should not have been made. So these are some trends on the OIG exclusion list from 2015 through 2024. Some additional exclusion trends, the number of exclusions that are increasing each year. You can see a precipitous increase in 2024, and we can expect those numbers to continue to increase. So what this means for obviously organizations and your organizations, that having good processes in place and knowing that this is going to be a focus, you need to make sure you have processes in place to help you manage this, and that you can expect there will be more activities around increasing this enforcement. On top of that, it's important not only that you are monitoring, obviously, the federal databases, but also the state databases. And even if you have providers in your state, that it's important to know whether they may have been excluded in others. A lot of the discussion was there's a lot of particularly providers that will move from state to state because the processes can't catch up with them. So having tools and having ways to be able to not just check those providers in your ecosystem, but also to be able to have a check to see whether they had any issues somewhere else would be important. It's really not that easy to do if you can't leverage technology or systems to help you in that process. So what are some of the significant challenges that you may face in this? Certainly, it can be a very expensive and manual process. Many folks are doing this on spreadsheets or doing consistent or maybe inconsistent checks. There's really not many or automated access to the federal and state exclusion databases. There's a manual or periodic checks that are put in place. Sometimes you're relying on external resources to conduct those comprehensive integrity checks and background checks, keeping in mind that those become point-in-time checks. So you could have issues where you validated and checked someone today, and you're going, even if you're employing a 1-month process, 30 days later, you find them on that list, but they could have gone on the day after those checks were made. And there's very few solutions in the marketplace that enables real-time continuous monitoring of these. And in a larger organization, if you're not employing tools to help you with this, it's almost virtually impossible to check everyone in your ecosystem, depending upon the size of your organization. And some you could have thousands of vendors, clinicians, employees, and the likes that need to be monitored. So going to take just a very brief and quick poll to ask the folks that are participating here kind of how you are conducting your processes here today. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. And if you have the opportunity, please go in, and appreciate you answering those questions before we get into the next part of the presentation. Well, interesting data. I mean, I see that it's good to see that about a third of you actually have some type of software in place to help you with this. and over 70% of you that have answered are doing this in a manual process. And it's only a very small percentage of those, probably those that indicated that they are using software, that they are able to do these checks on a monthly basis and following those OIG recommendations. So from that standpoint, that is really good information and good for you, for those of you that are doing this. Just going to move on to the next slide and talk a little bit about how SureShield and our company can help with that process with a product offering we call IntegrityShield. So what we've done is taken a little bit of a different approach to this process, looking to see how we can automate these activities and really make this a more exception-based process. So what we've done is we've created a real-time automated continuous monitoring solution. So we've leveraged technology to go in and be able to monitor all the federal, state, and now the CMS open payment databases. And then we can match them up to your ecosystem so that should there be any changes with that, and you have the opportunity to determine who is in that ecosystem you want to have looked at. Is it your vendors, your business associates, your employees, your contractors, your clinicians? In many cases, we're doing all of this, but in some cases, we may only be doing part of it, depending upon that organization's desire. But with technology, we can go in and actually scrape these databases on a monthly basis, or excuse me, on a nightly basis. And then we can alert the organization if we see any kind of changes, either with what's come from the updates to those databases, to the ecosystems that you have, the ecosystem you have in place. So really providing real-time, 24/7 continuous monitoring. And then being able to provide the insights and reports and analytics you need and audit trails to prove that you have a structured and disciplined process in place here today as well. I've got just a small little graphic, kind of an animation that would show you a little bit different between even some software programs where data is sent out to them. They may not be doing this on a regular, continuous, nightly basis. So in this particular case, even if you were following a monthly process, in the case of a SureShield application or our IntegrityShield application, you may have checked someone on day one, everything was fine. But on day three, if they ended up on that list, our system would identify that and be able to alert you and or those in your ecosystem or managing this process as to the fact that you have this and that you have seen a match, and allow you to take the proper activities to first of all validate that, and if validate, do the proper things to get that person out of that environment. Again, having these kind of tools and these systems in place will help you even in demonstrating, if you do have an issue, that you have a very good structured process in place. And it allows you to very easily manage all the providers, all the vendors in your network without necessarily having to add additional resources to that as well. This is more of a schematic that shows kind of how the process works. Behind the scenes, we're monitoring all these databases, and then we are matching them up to the different ecosystem, to your ecosystem, to help alert you as to whether any matches are there, and then providing you workflow to allow you to actually manage that and validate those processes as well. Because we've also been able to acquire and accumulate a lot of this information over time, our system will actually allow you to even see whether you have people that have had past issues. So you may have someone that's come into your environment or you brought into your environment today that is not on any of those lists, but perhaps in the past they had been on. And it's a good way to be able to, one, consider whether you want to bring someone in that may have been previously excluded, or at least to have the knowledge that that is something that you need to look out for if you're bringing one of those contractors or those vendors into your environments as well. So as I mentioned, please, you do have access to the Q&A for questions. We're going to go into kind of a brief demonstration to show you how this offering works. And then we'll go ahead and take any questions you may have as well. So give me just a second. We're going to get out of this. And I've opened up what we call our IntegrityShield solution for sanctions and exclusions management. I've just signed in, and the first thing you'll see is kind of a brief notation to tell you at this point in time, kind of an overview of what's there, any matches that have been found. This is a demonstration site, so hopefully you wouldn't see this type of data. But it's telling me that there's 42 matches. There's some past exclusions that have been found. The work lists allow you to go in and actually add records to a work list should you see that you have an issue. And then we also help with kind of doing work on the quality of the data. So it's not uncommon, depending upon what you have, that you could have data in your list that isn't 100% matched with those in those databases. So we try to actually help improve the quality of the record itself, so that when a match is notated, oftentimes you can note that that is clearly is a match because of the quality of the data that has been captured on them. So you can see here in this particular area, it's showing me the matches that have been found. It's telling me what the sources of those matches are. So you can see some of these are state databases. Some of these are the LEIE, the SAM. And I can go into any one of those, then click into that particular vendor and look at what the match is. It will tell me things like what the quality of that match score is. So you can see a lot of the data that's been captured on this particular, this is the organization or the healthcare entity, and this is the match list. It's telling them what the quality of that match was, what the particular exclusion list that this was found on, what was the reason for that. If we do have the data, not all of the state databases, for instance, have a lot of good information on them, but the LEIE, the SAM, gives you even more comprehensive detail about what that match was and what was the reason for that particular exclusion. After looking at this, then you have the ability, once you see those, to actually put them into what we might call a work list. So you can move them to a work list so that you can actually come into a work list and take the proper activities on those. Even with matches, it's important in your process that you are at least going in and doing kind of a primary validation to that. So really, it's a matter of clicking into that work list once you've brought them into there. And on the work list, you can go and do things like send out requests to those individuals, assign tasks, depending upon whether we have things like emails of those individuals. We can actually push out an automated message asking them to validate, saying that we found this on your particular this information on you, and we would like you to validate that this is all valid in helping you be able to document and bring in the proper appropriate data to back up your look and work on this as well, and then to make your determinations based upon that information, whether you're going to, continue to work with that individual or move them out of the environment, and document all that as well. You'll note up here then, this just provides some information on all the different records that are monitored. in the database. So you can see here the data sources that are being looked at. You do have the ability, as we said in the beginning, to just initially screen anyone coming in. So if you want, if you're thinking about an individual you're looking to bring into your ecosystem, you can do an ad hoc screening on them, get a quick search to determine if anything pops up. And then once you've validated if everything is okay, you can push them obviously, into your environment for doing so. How does the data get into our product? There's a number of different ways. You can do an individual ad each time. There's ways to upload uh, things like Excel sheets of your ecosystem. And in some cases, we've developed uh, processes with our customers where we have some more automated means to be able to have their employee databases, their physician databases, their vendor information pushed to us on a regular basis. So there's more automation to that updating process. And then lastly, there's a whole bunch of different types of reports that you can generate out of the system, both for you to generate and to even schedule. If you want to have scheduled reports that are run for you on a regular basis, you can have those pushed out to you as well. And of course, if you do have any type of issue where you have to demonstrate your processes, you're going to have complete audit trails that will show you every database that was checked, when it was checked, when any one of those individual in your ecosystem was checked, to again prove that you have a very structured and validated process in place. So I'm going to pause here briefly and just show you very briefly the open payments process. We are still in the process of getting ready to release this, thanks to a lot of amazing insight that we've gotten from partner of ours. And but to give you an idea, it's very similar if you were to activate the open payment process, picking that particular component, and you'll see that kind of the oversight of this follows a little bit of the similar structure as you saw in the exclusions and sanctions piece. So again, we bring that provider list in, and then the open payments database is not, right now it appears it's only updated on a yearly basis. It's not as consistent as things like the LEIE and the SAM. But we can then actually identify within that current database all the potential conflict of interest cases you could potentially have by matching those to the providers. And then as you look at those, being able to take a look and see where those potential issues are. So for instance, within your own ecosystem, what vendors of yours may have some issues with that particular provider or may have interest with that particular provider, what other vendors may have an interest with that particular provider as well. And really in a similar situation, validate, you may already know that because of this, it's not a concern, and so you're not going to have it as a concern as a conflict of interest. Or if so, you can move it into a work list to do a similar type of activity of validating and making sure that there are no conflicts with that provider or with that vendor in your particular environment as well. So that is kind of a brief overview. I think the timing, as we said, was very good, knowing that the enforcement activities here are going to continue to ramp up, and having things that you can leverage in your environment with technology that can help make this an easier process is really what we're here to help provide. It doesn't prevent you or stop you from still having to have the disciplined approach to your compliance processes in place. Yet these types of technologies can actually help you uh, be able to better manage this whole oversight process and demonstrate that you do have these types of uh, obviously good oversight processes in place for your organization. So let me pause here. Hopefully, we're going to buy you back a little bit of time in your day. If you are interested in having one of us follow up with you and give you an opportunity to trial our solution initially, we're happy to do that. If you go ahead and answer into this poll question, uh, whether you would like to have that particular type of follow-up, we're happy to have individuals from our company reach out to you and set up that time as well to give you a further, more deep dive into this, as well as the opportunity to do some testing on your own. So with that, let me go ahead and go to the Q&A. If you have a chance and you have any questions, please go into the Q&A section of this and open up any questions you may have. I see one here right now that's asking kind of how do we price our product. So we do not charge on a per check basis. Generally, we're going to look at the size of your ecosystem, how many providers, vendors, um, clinicians, employees, whatever those numbers are that you want to have checked or, continuously checked. And then we have basically a monthly subscription cost for doing that. So there's no cost to checking multiple times. Because of the way that we've created this process, as we mentioned, we are checking nightly. So there's no cost to that, as well as, you're not having any what I would call spot information. You're not having to push this information out outside of making sure that we have processes in place to make sure that we have updates, proper updates to anyone who's entering and or exiting the environment uh, as well. And actually, we have one of our James McGuire, who's actually worked with us on this whole process and putting this in place. He's offering that if any of you have any questions as to why CMS open payments is critical for compliance activities, two things. One, you certainly can go ahead and open up those questions here today. But also, if you do have questions, I'm happy, and James is happy to actually help answer some of those as to why he worked with us on helping to try to make this process happen. So I'll keep that open right now, and if not, um, as you said, James is happy to actually converse with you outside of this as to why this became important or is an important process for them as well. And James, I don't see anyone answering those questions right now, but I appreciate you. I wish I could actually open up the mic for you. But I think hopefully we can perhaps get into offering a similar session for more folks here down the road as well. And I think we will be doing follow-up emails to all of you that have participated here today. If you were maybe a little reluctant to ask questions, please get back to me in replies to those emails that will go out, and I can actually put you in touch with the appropriate individuals. For those of you that have asked for a follow-up to potentially get more information on how the system works or do a brief trial of this, I'll be reaching out to you here shortly to set that up. And please take a look at the chat as well. James has offered you access to his LinkedIn email, is his LinkedIn account, if you'd like to try to connect with him directly as well. And I really appreciate that offer here, James. So with that, if there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and close out this session and appreciate all of you participating in this process. And hopefully we may have a chance to work together with you. All the best, and thank you again for your participation here today.